next, I would like to invite Dr. Per-Arne Wikström. He is the head of Office of Science and Innovation, Embassy of Sweden in New Delhi. Dr. Per-Arne Wikström, are you here? Yes. And of course, you will have a fireside chat with two very distinguished people. The first is with Virginia Dignum, the Wallenberg Chair and Professor for Responsible Artificial Intelligence in Umeå. And then it will be with Arnab Kumar, the former program director for NITI Aayog about digitalization during pandemics. I'll hand it over to you, Dr. Per-Arne.
Okay, thank you very much, and a pleasure to host this section of today. And this section is called "Pioneer the Possible: Making It Happen: AI and Digitalization," and we will discuss this topic, making it happen. What is it that we make happen, and how does it affect us? We will have some really interesting discussions here, I hope, and I will present our fireside chat friends here soon, but I will begin with introducing a startup, Puneet Goyal at iDream Education. Or do we want to is that maybe that was the pitch that we listened to? Yes. Okay, so we will continue with the discussions, with the fireside chats, and I will first welcome Professor Virginia Dignum. As you said, she's professor in social and ethical AI at Umeå University and Wallenberg Chair on Responsible AI, scientific director of WASP HS, and WASP is Wallenberg AI Autonomous Systems and Software Program, if I understand everything right here. She's also the author of the book Responsible AI, and she focuses in her research on the complex interconnections and interdependencies between people, organizations, and technology. She is a member of the European Commission high-level expert group on AI, and she is also a member of the World Economic Forum Council on AI, and I would say many other AI-related expert groups and organizations. We can't continue with talking about that because we would never end. She also tweets at Dignum. Have a look at that, it's really interesting. And among other things, Virginia, is that you've tweeted, which I thought was really interesting, is you write something about the data being the new oil, and that we messed up things with oil. So can you expand a little on that phrase a little? What do you mean by that?
Sure. Thank you very much. Thank you also for your introduction. It's my pleasure to be here today to talk to you. And indeed, the comparison of data with oil is not something that I made. There is many people who have been comparing data to the new oil or the new gold. What I was tweeting about was the fact that as with oil previously, when we are at the moment, all of us feeling the impact of the way that we used oil in the last 200 years or more, we are living with the consequences of how oil was used, and namely with the consequences for the climate and for society in terms of how we profit from the benefits of oil, but maybe we not all the time look at potentially the negative consequences of using oil in ways that were only motivated by profit and by development. So my comment on Twitter was that as we are comparing data to the new oil, we should take into account the potential negative consequences of data-driven approaches, of this big data, and the idea that we have to use and to collect and manage as large as possible amounts of data, because at the same time we need to also consider what are the potential societal impact of doing that. How are our lives going to change by using increasing the amounts of data, and how is that going to, in the future, change the ways that we are used to do things, for the good, but also for the bad. So that was the issue of the Twitter.
So that's very much related to what you are writing about and doing research on as well, of course. So if we look at artificial intelligence and AI decisions, and I mean the need to balance between moral, social aspects, legal aspects, and so on and so forth. What would you think say are the biggest challenges for us now and in the future when it comes to AI decisions?
Yeah, I think one important issue that we need to realize is that AI is a tool that we use, is a framework, is an artifact that we build to support us making decisions. It's not like AI operates in a lawless world, and also not that the decisions that AI make can be done impunely by the systems if they were not been the same when it's done by people. It's also important to realize that at the moment the drive behind development of AI is often an economic drive, is one of efficiency and of accuracy. As we are pushing forward in that direction, we need as well to take into account how can we push in the direction of ensuring fairness, ensuring inclusion, ensuring transparency of what is being done. Because we see a lot of cases in which AI decisions are afterwards, when people look at it, not the most fair to everybody, because the data that they were used to base those decisions on was maybe not the one which was more inclusive and more fair to all different types of people in terms of gender, in terms of ethnicity, in terms of culture, in terms of many other things. So we need to balance between the drive to develop increasingly accurate and efficient systems with the equally important drive to ensure that the decisions made by this type of systems are fair, are just, are transparent, and are benefiting all of us in general. To do that, we can look at legal aspects and at regulation. And in Europe, we are looking with the European Union at ways to regulate the use and the development of AI. But regulation is not the only way to go forward. We can also look at standards. We can look at education and at awareness, providing awareness to all of us about what AI can do and AI cannot do. So there are many directions, and we do need to balance. And it's not like we can just go for the accuracy without taking care for the consequences of that accuracy in terms of fairness, for instance, or safety or justice.
Do you have any, it's very interesting, the whole question here, but do you have any advice to give us when, since we're now talking about collaboration between India and Sweden and related to this, to these, I mean, really big questions. Do you have any advice to us? What would you say that we need to think about when we collaborate around AI?
Yeah, I think that inclusion is a very important issue, and it's already very good that we are working here together and see how we can work together between India and Sweden, because AI is going to affect the whole world. We cannot leave the development of AI systems to only a certain subset of this world. We really need to take into account the many different cultures, the many different languages, the many different types of people, the many different needs of people. And to do that, it's something which needs to really require some participation of different groups, but also taking into account that the developers or the computer scientists, the ones who are programming these systems, they only have a part of the solution. They don't know everything, and we need to encourage that development teams include also people and groups that are able to understand more the impact, the ethics. So we need to involve philosophers, we need to involve sociologists, maybe psychologists, and so on, to do a multidisciplinary and participatory approach to understand not only what can be done with AI, but also what should be done with AI to ensure that the systems are beneficial.
That sounds really interesting and important, and with participation in a broader sense. I would like to invite our next friend by the Fireside here, and Arnab Kumar. He's India Director of Strategy and Growth for Process FinTech. Served as the first Program Director Frontier Technologies for NITI Aayog, where he led strategy and implementation initiatives in AI, FinTech, and digital currency. You also co-authored India's national strategy for AI and spearheaded the development of this Aayog, I don't know if I pronounced that right, sorry, which is India's mobile application for COVID-19. You read a lot about that recently, tracing, contact, and information dissemination. And you also worked as an investment banker at Deutsche Bank around the globe. So you have a business studies background. So I have two different topics I would like to discuss with you. First of all, can you please tell us a little about the work with this application for COVID-19 from a digitalization point of view and from a collaborative point of view? What can we learn from those processes?
Sure. First of all, thank you very much for hosting me for this session. Well, when we were developing Aayog Setu, there were multiple things that we had to solve when we had to build a product at population scale, assuming a large part of the population adopts this, and so that the contact tracing for COVID-19 becomes effective. A bunch of things that were critical for us was, first of all, a product like this has to work across every single possible mobile device. And if you know India, you know that in India, you have mobile phones, smartphones that go for 3,000 rupees, $70, all the way to $1,200. So making sure that the technology works across all of this, it's primarily using your Bluetooth and GPS technology inbuilt in a mobile device. It works across. So we had to do a lot of work to make sure that the RSSI signal tuning, etc., is done. But more importantly, what needed to be done was we had to understand that the digital or the technological sophistication is not the same across the board. And when we think of digital or technological sophistication, a lot of people in this forum who have logged in through a video conference are digitally sophisticated, and we think that everybody else will be the same. We had to flip that construct and say, if people are not comfortable with this, we build something that they will be comfortable with. So an application which is simple enough for people to understand in the front end. All the complexities are taken care of in the back end, all the algorithms, calculations, etc., for potential risk, etc. That is taken care in the background. But what is in front of you is a very simple application. A lot of complexities and a lot of tech built for enabling policymakers and decision makers to take effective decisions as the COVID-19 infection was evolving across the country. That is what is required. More importantly, this was a fantastic example of public-private collaboration. A bunch of people, 70, 80 odd of us, we came together. We built this in quick time. So people from the government, people from academia, people from technology, startup community, leading epidemiologists, people who knew and understood population level statistics and how people move, etc. They all came together and we built this in a rapid time frame. I mean, we had the product ready in 3.5 weeks and we went open source in less than 8 weeks since launch. So for this to be possible, a lot of people had to come together. Fantastic example of public-private collaboration, trying to build a technology when it was needed, that too at a scale which in India, typically a product of this scale is a billion scale. So those were the key learnings: build for everybody, build for simplicity, and build for all kinds of technology sophistication, keeping in mind the scale that we have to solve for.
Thank you. Really interesting to listen to that. So let's shift focus a little towards your business background and what you've done within that field and related to digitalization and AI. One question that always arises when you talk about making business is of course security aspects. I mean, that's a very hot topic. So do you have any, based on your background and your experience, do you have any advice things to think about when it comes to digitalization and security from a business perspective?
Sure. So I can share a few things that I have learned and I've been fortunate to work on. I moved back to India in early 2017 for the last 4.5 years. Been very fortunate to work on a bunch of things. There are a few things that need to be understood. The first is that the privacy and security, these are the kind of things when you build in a solution, be it a product or a business or whatever digital solution you are trying to build, these have to be by design, which means that this can't be an afterthought. You have to build it from the start. If you have to make sure that you are dealing with, say, personal sensitive information, you minimize both asking for that information and then minimize how you expose that to people who may not need it. And that becomes the central construct. How you make sure that the least amount of people are exposed to a lot of information is something that has to be built by construct. And for example, if we are building a product that requires people's, and as an example, Aayog Setu, we were taking a Bluetooth handshake between two devices, which was a proxy for two people meeting and potentially being exposed to a chance of infection. That kind of information does not need to be pulled to a central server unless absolutely necessary, which meant that most of this information was encoded, encrypted, and kept on the phone itself using the phone's native encryption technology. You don't need to pull this. So rather than trying to be a data hog and pulling everything to a central server, keep it decentralized, pull the information only absolutely when you need it, and that's how you minimize. And that's what I said, privacy and security by design. If these are the fundamental principles you are adhering to, then chances of, something going wrong gets minimized. And I'm very proud that the engineers that built this product, the product has been live for about 1.5 years now, and we have seen, and I hope this remains that way, we have seen no incidents where people may have said that, look, there has been a data exposure or whatever. So a lot of people have put their thoughts together. We have been very, very rigorous in testing the product, and this happened, and this is a theme that I've carried to a few other products that I've built ever since, which is every iteration when you are pushing out a release or a product, you thoroughly test the product. You look for normal cases, you look for edge cases, you become paranoid about the privacy and the security of the product. That is something that will be a simple one-line advice to everybody.
And from a collaboration point of view, I mean, today we have a discussion about collaboration between Sweden and India. Do you have any, based on your experience again, do you have any advice here in what to think about when countries collaborate on these kind of questions?
Sure. So what people, and I think a lot of people have understood, and in the last several years, is that what India offers is a variety of use cases, is a variety of people trying to consume technology solutions. And people may not have same level of, say, awareness or ability to consume in the manner that you want to push the product. And that is where the challenge comes. A lot of technology solutions that you see in India are a combination of technology and operations trying to solve for a specific use or a set of use cases. And that is where the opportunity to collaborate. If you are a technology first company, find a use case or find a partner who understands operations at a large scale, unless you are in a very niche segment where only technology can solve for that. Otherwise, at India, for most of the business solutions at this stage is a combination of technology and operational excellence. There's one true outlier, and which has been very, very successful, and which is a fantastic example of India-Sweden collaboration, which is Truecaller. Truecaller, a Swedish company, all the operations are here in India, massively successful. If you have seen Truecaller, say 5, 6, 7 years out, you would have wondered what is the model that will be successful and what is it they're trying to solve. Outside India, it would have been difficult to understand what is it that is trying to be solved here in India. But the validation is in the success. The validation is the success of everything that they have done in the last 7, 8 years, and this year when they have gone and IPO'd with almost 80% of the operations in India. So if you have a fantastic technology, find a use case. If you have a fantastic technology, find an operational excellence partner or set of use case partners, and then try to solve. That would be a good collaborative effort. Sweden, in my limited view, fantastic engineering capabilities in a bunch of areas, including AI/ML. Use case India can provide.
Thank you very much, Arnab, for those closing thoughts. Really nice to listen also to a good case study in the end there with this Swedish company. So thank you very much for that. And now let's listen to our expert panel, who would also be closing today's Innovation Day. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you, Dr. Per-Arne, and thank you, Arnab. Thank you for joining us and giving us this fantastic insight for the amazing work you have done.